Charlie's here?
Yeah, Charlie's there.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, Charlie. Sandy, you ready? Everybody ready?
I have. I tested.
We ready?
You ready?
We're ready. We're ready when you're ready.
Can everybody turn their cell phone ringers off so we're not interrupted? Excellent. If you're planning on speaking in public portion, make sure you fill out a card. I'll remind everybody this is a hybrid meeting as well, so there may be some participants who are coming on from remote locations. Okay.
He's not talking.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Southampton Town Board to order on this 27th day of December 2023. Please rise if you're able and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing and join with me and the Town Board in a brief moment of silence as we keep in our thoughts and prayers all the brave men and women of our armed services who bravely defend our freedoms at home and abroad each day. With them in mind, let's join in silence. All right, please be seated. Madam Clerk, would you please read the special meeting notice followed by a roll call?
Certainly. Members of the Town Board, special Town Board meeting Wednesday, December 27th, 2023 at 1 p.m. Please be advised that pursuant to Section 62.
Reading the special meeting notice, it's all available at the top of the special meeting.
I just did.
The mic is on.
Mics are on.
You can't hear me? Charlie, can you up the amplification a little bit? Madam Clerk, would you please continue?
I certainly will. Please be advised that pursuant to Section 62 of Town Law, a special Town Board meeting will be held, excuse me, both in person and in the Town Board Meeting Room, Southampton Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, New York, and via video conferencing on Wednesday, December 27th, 2023 at 1 p.m. for the purpose of considering the following. Resolution to accept and file a notice of completion of final environmental impact statement, FEIS, in connection with the Concern for Independent Living zone change application entitled Liberty Gardens in the hamlet of Tuckahoe. J. Schneiderman, Supervisor, Town of Southampton, dated December 20th, 2023.
Just waiting for the vote.
Schneiderman,
I'm present.
Councilwoman McNamara. Here. Councilman Martell.
Present.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Scavone.
Present.
Okay. Janice, hold off. We're going to do public portion first, so before we get to the agenda. Okay. We're going to start the meeting with public portion. We have a number of cards. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to make their comments known. The clerk will let you know when you're down to your last 30 seconds. After we complete public portion, we will move on to the agenda. There is only one resolution on for today concerning the Liberty Gardens FEIS completion, and that's it. And we'll go to public portion now. We'll start, I'll tell you who's on deck so that you can queue up so we don't have to wait for people to move through the aisles. All right, Bill Pell, followed by Susan Stevenson.
Thank you. Supervisor Snyderman. I'm here to talk about what you guys are doing on your resolution. I'm not going to say if I'm for Liberty Gardens or against Liberty Gardens. I'm against how you're doing it. You have 4 more days, Jay Snyderman, as supervisor. And when I get things from upstairs from IT, says anything with a special on it or urgent, there's something wrong with it. So I want to know, what is your agenda for this? I think there's something up. I polled the new board. Most of the people on the board would like you to wait, let them to decide on this, not you, because that way we don't have to clean up your mess. Thank you very much.
Let me take a moment to address a point or two. One is, I wanted to have this, Mr. Pell at the last meeting, was not able to walk it on, did not have the votes to do that, had to call a special. The Liberty Gardens proposal, it was this board that said that we would consider it. It was this board that required an environmental impact study be prepared. It was this board that determined what questions need to be answered. And I am still working until the end of the year. You don't get to just say, oh, we're not going to deem it complete, even though the questions are answered, because we want to stall it, right? It's either complete or it's not. And if there's a reason why it's not complete, people should say so. But the questions have been answered. That's what we have been told by professional staff. We've read the documents, and you may want us to wait. You're going to make the decision, your board, whether to approve the project or not. We don't have time for that, but we can finish the work that we started. And I hope when you're in these chairs, you get to finish the work that you start. All right. Next up, Susan Stevenson, followed by Linda Ashcraft.
Supervisor, I just would like to address the special meeting portion of this because it's been brought up before. And had you read the draft agenda that we all got, you would have known it was not on the agenda with time to put it on the agenda. There were 2 board members that would not agree to walk it on to a meeting with no notice to the public. You then noticed a special meeting for an hour before the meeting to get around not being able to walk it around. We would not consent to doing away with the 48 required hours of notice to the public. That's why it's a special meeting, because it couldn't be done on the timeline specified with public input.
Okay, so
And the
that's
public
perfect then.
has a decision, and there's over 3 dozen emails from people who cannot speak today because they are either away on travel with family and friends, or they are busy with holiday endeavors. So the fact that this is a special meeting between Christmas and New Year's is a problem within itself, because it is denying the public their ability to come and speak at a meeting where a big decision is being made.
All right, so Susan, you are followed by Linda Ashcraft.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
We're going to know.
I have to
It's coming to us.
say that Cindy McNamara took a lot of what I had to say, and I agree with her. We are the public. This is where we live. And the idea that between Christmas and New Year's, or before Christmas, that you are maneuvering for what reason and rushing for what reason you have not really said, I find inexplicable and actually an affront to the voters and to the public. And I am one of them. I work for another government. I understand how meetings should be noticed, and I realize that perhaps it was legal what you did, but I don't think it was right, that you've denied people the right to have input on what is surely, I feel, have you all read all 600 pages of the FEIS? It hasn't been available to people, the public, except for like 10 or 14 days to read, and maybe, people traveled. It seems to me that there is something awry in the process. And I take it personally, and I take it also as an affront to the community at large. That's all I have to say.
Susan, all right, Linda Ashcraft, followed by Jay Deasing.
Hi, I'm Linda Ashcraft from Shinnecock Hills, and I'm talking on one of the issues today, traffic. A transportation review was made of the traffic impact study that was submitted by the developers, and responses in the FEIS to the traffic review issues were repeatedly pat answers, such as the revised reduced density site plan will further reduce trip generation and traffic entering and exiting the site, or Based on results of the traffic study, it is the professional opinion of Nelson and Pope that the construction of the proposed project will not result in an adverse traffic impact at the study intersections and in the surrounding roadways. No clear remedies of the transportation review are provided, and while it is true that the proposed development has been reduced from 60 to 50 units, there has been no further traffic impact study to determine what the impact is based on 50 units rather than 60. Affordable housing for the workforce is one of our major issues here. The other major traffic is the other major issue here on County Road 39. It is too heavy with longer and denser rush hours. In August, the Suffolk County Executive announced a proposal to address County Road 39 as it has, quote, hit a breaking point for both residents and commuters. He continues, it is the main artery, and when it is choked, it affects not only people's commute times and the local economy, but it also affects a lot of the residential side streets that absorb the traffic. Rather than racing to push the FEIS for the high-density build-through, the town should be working to mitigate the traffic crisis that we are now experiencing on County Road 39, and the town should be working with the county to prioritize public safety and continuous flow of traffic, rather than considering a density build on the road at this time. It is not in the best interest of the town. A moratorium on builds that require zoning change for increased density would be more appropriate for County Road 39 at this time until the county traffic study is implemented and the resulting solutions are in. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. J.D. Singh, followed by Bern Haas.
Thank you for allowing the public to speak today. My name is J.D. Singh. I'm president of the Southampton Association, a local community group with over 300 members. I respectfully request the board close this meeting and defer the vote on accepting the Liberty Gardens FEIS until next year, giving the new board time to fully evaluate the project and handle this issue. Sadly, I don't think I'm going to get that Christmas present, but nonetheless, I want to highlight how throughout this application process, the public has been dismissed, attacked, and vilified for doing what the majority of this board and its advisors should have done: take an objective view and protect the residents and workers of this town. Instead, at every turn, key facts and recommendations were ignored so that the project continued to move forward in spite of its fatal flaws. At this point, the FEIS is still incomplete and inaccurate. Many issues, including segmentation and adjacent developments, have not been addressed. Others are inaccurately reviewed. For example, the traffic study absurdly concludes that there's no material impact on volume or safety on County Road 39. This not only defies logic, but it ignores comments and information that have been submitted to this board. Dunn Engineering submitted a review in 2022. Their principal partner has noted in a 19-point letter that the project will create more traffic, more accidents, and more problems on County Road 39. Additional development along the corridor is not prudent, but this is never addressed. Why is the board ignoring reality and promoting even greater disruption on County Road 39? Why are you rushing to accept this document? Because, as currently written, you hope it will hamstring the new board from doing what they eventually must do, which is reject this project. I spent the better part of yesterday afternoon at Town Hall. Great staff. It was almost a Christmas party. But reviewing the files was not a fun task. But of the 100 or so letters and emails that were in the file, more than 90% opposed the project. The comments included bait and switch, ridiculous, failed to fully vet, rampant dishonesty, will prove disastrous, firmly opposed, and many, many more. However, you would not know about the overwhelming community opposition from reading the FEIS or listening to the developer. He says that it's only a small vocal group. Well, what I'm here to tell you is it's only a small vocal group that's pushing this. The rest of us are being ignored. The village, the town, we're being pushed aside so that this project can be pushed through. Please stop this runaway train before you have a further legacy of disregarding and misinforming the public. The applicant bemoaned the amount of money and time, by the way, our tax dollars, that he has already spent on this project. He ignores the fact that the project was mislabeled and misrepresented at the outset. It was his own fault. Given the financial support of various government agencies and the strings and chains attached to this money, it's highly unlikely that the project will serve any of our local workforce. Please don't let this sham of a process continue. If it comes to a vote, say no, and at the very least, allow the incoming board time to take a look at the FEIS. Thank you.
Byrne, I think it's Haas, followed by David Rum. Is it Bernice? Oh, okay.
Hi, I'm Vern Haas, and I want to thank Jay Schneiderman for being for his time served. But I'm quite disappointed that most of the people that are concerned and involved in this project are away. They're away for the Christmas holiday. We can't push this through, and rather the surprise that Jay wanted to push this through at this holiday time. I mean, this is a project where there's 50 disabled veterans, and that would mean maybe 150 people that would be going into this project. This project is going to change Southampton and change Southampton forever. This is a project that we have to be strong and show our support and see what we can do to disengage this project. And I'm asking you and the board and Jay Schneiderman to reevaluate what they have done and cancel this project as soon as possible. Thank you.
Byrne. David Wrong, followed by, I think it's Vimla Pico. All right.
David Round, Southampton Village. Recently, 700 Meadow Lane sold for $112.5 million. The town assessed value for this property is $38,292,000, which computes to an assessed value percentage of 34%. My wife and I live in a property which is 2,100 square feet on less than a half acre and has a ratio of 87%. So you have a $112 million property with an assessed value from the town ratio of 34%, a $2 million property with a ratio of 84%. Tell me how that's fair. This is typical of how the town extorts money from residents of lower valued properties and subsidizes the residents of higher valued properties. This is unseemly, despicable, and each of you should be ashamed of yourselves. The town website does not tell residents how assessed values are determined. It should. This is not a difficult ask. The town invoice, okay, displays a full value number, but this is a deception. The so-called full value is just a number computed from a predetermined assessed value. It has no relevance to actual, assessed value, actual real value. Why is it so difficult for this town to treat residents with respect and to just tell them the truth? What should residents do? File a grievance and demand that your assessed value be no more than the 34% given to 700 Meadow Lane. You will need an estimate of your own fair market value. Do not use the number on your invoice. It's a lie. The other thing that is probably needed is a class action lawsuit against the town. The town presently discriminates against a class of residents, the residents of lower valued properties, the residents who can least afford to pay a disproportionate amount of the town and school tax burden. An attorney who wants to make a lot of money for themselves and provide a significant service for this community
30
should
seconds.
pursue this class action. I will provide a list of potential plaintiffs.
Thank you, Mr. Ohm. All right. Bill Pico, followed by Renee Morrison.
Good afternoon. My name is Bimla Pico. I've been a resident of Southampton Village for over 30 years. I'd like to thank you for your service. You've done some things very well and some things less well. And I'm surprised that this is the legacy you would like to leave as you're leaving your position. I am also a trustee of a city organization, and I've never seen any kind of resolution passed in this way. I'm here today to dissuade you from voting on this resolution to pass Liberty Garden proposal based on the FEIS. I believe this board is making a hasty decision and that the full details of the project have not been revealed for the public's careful consideration. This is considered capricious and arbitrary in legal terms. Trustees are all elected, as I was, and sworn in to serve the needs of our community in good faith. Your constituency vehemently opposes this project, yet you continue to pursue it. Excuse me. This project has been misrepresented. First it was for independent living, then it was for veterans, then it was for workhouse housing. What is it? The FEIS that you say is complete is clearly incomplete. Of the 50 units, how many will actually be provided for the people who will work there to take care of the residents? And is it independent living, or is it people who need full care? Are they disabled veterans, or are they truly independent individuals? How much of the units will be used for our own workforce housing? Any? Obviously, the traffic report is ludicrous. I mean, if anyone spends more than 5 minutes on County Road 39, you see how dangerous it is for our ambulances to get through. If there's a broken tire, never mind a state of an emergency, we are in a crisis on County Road 39. Why are we not dealing with those issues first? Why do we have to put the cart before the horse? Our aquifers are in danger of, we're losing our clean water systems. There are a lot of other things we need to be dealing with for the health and the vibrancy of our community. And this is for such a limited constituency that I don't understand why you would spend so much time and resources on this project. Something else is going on here. And as I said, I do work with city developers and private developers, so we know how it goes. But there are a lot of developers who do proceed with integrity and with honesty. And we ask you to please have the consideration and the respect of our village to do this, and our town to do the same for us. Thank you very much.
Renee Morrison, followed by Maureen Brady.
Good afternoon. I've been here many times before. I have just 3 very famous words to say. Liberty Gardens is not by the people, of the people, or for the people, and should not be in the town of Southampton. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Maureen Brady, followed by Mayor William Manger.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, fine.
First of all, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Thank you, Cindy, for representing the town and the people who voted you in. I think the rest of you need to look into yourselves and decide at the end of the day, are you doing the right job for the people who elected you? I don't think you are. I think you're doing it for self-serving purposes only. Again, you have to put your head on the pillow at the end of the day and know, did I represent my folks properly or did I not? And I have to agree with the majority of the people that have come up here. I feel like you think, and I don't like using this word, I feel like you think we're stupid. Okay, we are not. Most of us are well-educated individuals, and we all feel like something is being swept under the rug, and this is happening too fast, too quickly because there's got to be an underlying message going on, okay? I can't read that quickly, and I don't think we should expect our newly elected folks to have to be able to do that so quickly. You've been at this for, I feel like, forever. So how do you expect the new board to come in and look at this and make a decision quickly? That's ridiculous, okay? The other thing is the safety issue on 39A. I live in Shinnecock Hills. Mr. Burke can verify that we are trying to get another road out of where we live, okay? It's been 6, 7 years, easily. And you want Mr. Pisano to put in another 60 units with one entrance and one exit, let alone the 24/7 safety and security issue? That's ridiculous, okay? This is not what Southampton Town is all about, okay? We are a small community. We want our community to be the best it can be. I don't disagree to do this development, not on 39A. There are lots of other places that we can do something. My other question is, and I want you each to think about this, Mr. Pisano has staffing issues in his other development areas. Has anybody asked him what the staffing is going to be?
30 seconds.
He can't keep people. Riverhead alone, they're having difficulty. They can't get people to cover the staffing. So I think you all need to think twice, think 3 times, 4 times, okay? To represent us and not yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so next up, Bill Manger, followed by Carol Whitehead.
Yes, I'm Bill Manger, Mayor of the Village of Southampton. And Jay, I've only been mayor for a short time, while you've been supervisor for quite a long time. And we've worked very cooperatively on many issues that face the town and especially the village. But I have to say reluctantly that this is definitely not one of them. We have tried to communicate with you over the past several months since I became mayor in July. I've had correspondence to your office asking to be kept apprised of everything that's going on. I even brought in Michael Anderson from the Village Planning Commission to meet with you and say this is my dedicated liaison from the village to the town. When issues are being worked on, we hope you keep him fully apprised of those. That just has not happened. What the village really is asking for here is from a letter that I sent you back on September 7th of this year. Again, it was only a couple months after I'd become mayor, and this was actually CC'd to all the town board members. And I asked for, however, prior to proceeding with the project, the village strongly believes that a supplemental draft environmental impact statement must be completed to address several issues that were outlined by the village's engineer, in this case, D&B Engineering, which we also sent you a copy of this. And that just has not happened. In fact, I did call Councilman Bouvier specifically earlier in the fall and spoke to him specifically about asking for a supplemental to the DEIS. And at that time, Councilman Bouvier, you agreed that it was not ready and that you would ask for a supplemental to be done. I remember this phone call very well. In fact, I was not too far from Jay when I had that conversation with you. But anyway, there are several issues, and I just want to outline them quickly here because I know we have limited time. But again, the traffic study seems to contradict the town's own County Road 39 corridor study in many ways. I don't think it fully fleshed that out. I think that needs to be looked at a little further. The plan for the wastewater from this project has not been fully identified where it's going. It looks like it may be coming onto village property, not village-owned property, but on the village side of the boundary, whether it goes to the nursing home that's located there or another site on the village side of the line that is in very close proximity to the West Prospect Street well field that supplies all of the water to the village. This really needs to be looked at further before this moves forward, and a supplemental would allow that to be analyzed further, because certainly Jay, I don't think you want your legacy to be the possible contamination of the village's source of drinking water. So that's another thing I really think needs to be further studied before moving forward. I'm not saying anything about the project itself. There more study needs to be done before you take the step that you're trying to take today as you go out the door, which, is another issue. But the other couple of issues here that were nowhere at all addressed, and again, this was sent to all of you back in September as other issues that needed to be addressed that were never addressed. For example, the existence of the environmentally sensitive northern long-eared bat. That is identified as being an area that could have the northern long-eared bat. Nowhere has that been looked at by the FEIS. For example, did you know that if the northern long-eared bat is found on that property, that no tree cutting may be done on the property between March 1st and November 30th? And by the way, the northern long-eared bat is on the Federal Register of Endangered Species. So no tree cutting could be done from March 1st until November 30th. That means only 3 months out of the year could any tree cutting be done. That was nowhere addressed in this, but it's an issue that the village raised with you
30 seconds.
and should have been addressed. And the village has the option of notifying the New York State DEC about this, and I think we're going to have to obviously do that now because you didn't take my advice. Finally, a stormwater management practice has not been addressed in the DAS. And this is over an acre of land. In the town, that should be addressed. What is going to happen to the stormwater on this property? As you know, a corner of the property is actually in the village, and we don't want to have all the stormwater run into the village side of the property, but this has not been looked at. We don't know what the result would be. Is it going to be flooding in the Hillcrest neighborhood? We don't know because it was not done. These things need to be done before you take the step you're taking. So again, the village asked for a supplemental DEIS to be done before this action is taken. And I really think, Jay, it's best that this be left to the next board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Carol Whitehead, followed by Rome Arnold.
Well, that's a hard act to follow, but I also wonder, what's the rush? Why now? This is a very consequential project, and it's really hard to understand why this is being done in this fashion. It's very troubling to me as a taxpayer and a resident and someone who respects local government. And I do think it should be the new administration's responsibility to consider this and when they have time, when they can familiarize themselves. Certainly, we as residents have not had ample notice of this particular meeting. I think it's frankly shocking, but others have said the same. I'm very concerned about some of the issues that have been raised: sewage, traffic. Half of these residents apparently have mental health issues that will be introduced into our community. And I don't think that was maybe necessarily, it's in the document, but I don't know that that's been underlined in any way. And I frankly don't see any real benefit to the community the way this is constructed. The only benefit seems to accrue to the developer. And vis-a-vis the consultants, well, they look at everything with a pro-development lens. Their traffic studies for another project recently were completely contrary to my experience using this particular road. So I agree with the mayor. Yes, a supplemental study that addresses the concerns of the people who live here, I think is in order. And I thank you all for your service, but I think this meeting should never have happened, and I hope you'll table this proposal.
All right, thank you. All right, I got Rome Arnold is passing, so we got Donna Kremborg next, followed by Myron Holtz.
Good afternoon. It's like deja vu all over again. The best, we won't go into that. This Liberty Gardens, I'm not for or against, but I am about the safety of the people of this town. I've spent 20 years volunteering in the ambulance, as well my son now. We struggle to get the ambulance out the door because we no longer have enough locals that can live here. What kind of needs do the residents of Liberty Gardens are gonna need? Does the ambulance been notified of what specialized training, how much calls? And let's talk about traffic. I can't get, County Road closes down. We can't move if there's a fender bender. Suppose we have an emergency at Liberty Gardens and we can't get the necessary medical need to those residents that are living there. Has any of this been addressed? I've been the chairman of the board for the past 5 years. I know it was brought up back in October of 2021, but I never heard anything else. I want my ambulance to be at the top of their game and be able to handle every emergency that is presented to them. And if this is put through, we are not gonna learn on the fly when it comes to people's lives. And while we're trying to figure out what we can do for the residents of Liberty Gardens as this goes through, somebody else in our district may very well be needing an ambulance, but we won't be able to get to them. So I hope you take a step back, think about the locals that are left, that are volunteering for this town, and try to do the right thing, because everybody deserves the best medical care possible. And I don't want it to be on this board to say, maybe we should have took a different look at this. So I know you mentioned to me that this is good for our volunteers. I don't see it that way. I see it as, how do I get my EMTs and paramedics trained quickly? Because when these residents do need our specified help, how are we gonna give it to them? Do they need to be transported out of district? I don't know if you know, but right now we transport from Northwell. They are required to go to Peconic Bay, which takes a Southampton ambulance rig out of district for 2 hours, sometimes 2.5. Where does Liberty Gardens residents have to be transported? Because Southampton Hospital can't take them. And it's a shame, because I want to give them the same professionalized medical care that every resident in Southampton town deserves. And at this point, I can say that we were just not prepared. And I don't know if your fire departments are prepared either. So I just want you to really think about that before rushing into something, because it's really hard to undo once you've already done it.
Thank you, Don. All right, I got Myron Holtz. Myron will be followed by Rebecca Sinclair.
Good afternoon, Town Board members. My name is Myron Holtz, and as you may recall, I'm a retired former Deputy Housing Commissioner for the Department of Homes and Community Renewal, and I was in charge of statewide affordable assisted housing in New York State. I'm familiar with the environmental impact statements, both the initial and the final requirements, as well as the CEQA requirements. I have reviewed significant portions of the Liberty Gardens FEIS, which is on the agenda of this afternoon's Town Board meeting. And in my experience, there can be a difference between what is on paper and what will ultimately and hopefully exist in the real world. I made it a point to check out the background of the developer with my former colleagues and to visit one of Concerned Living's supportive housing sites when I first learned 2 years ago about their proposed development on the site adjacent to the Full Gospel Church property in the town. So I visited their site in Ronkonkoma and was truly impressed with the look of the development and the casual, unscripted conversations I had with some residents that I encountered as I walked the site and inspected some of the apartments. And today, this whole process brings back memories that I have of all the negative comments I heard at all of the public hearings I attended and spoke at on the proposed Sandy Hollow Apartments affordable housing development. And to this day, the one comment that sticks in my mind is from a neighborhood resident of the development who said, "They will climb over the fence and swim in my pool." Yet today, Sandy Hollow Apartment Complex is a premier example of community affordable housing and how the residents of that complex are an accepted and welcome part of our community. And to close, I would like to read a very brief note that appeared in this week's issue of the Southampton Press under police reports. Southampton Village, an area check of the wooded area around the Hampton Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing revealed numerous homeless encampments to the village police, according to a December 14 report, Mr. Mayor. All I can say is with our recorded need for affordable community housing in our town, be it supportive veterans housing or family workforce housing, is what exists on this site today the best that Southampton Town and the village can do with this property. I hope that the members of the board can see their way clear to accept and file a notice of completion of the FEIS so that we can move forward with the approval process of this much-needed affordable community housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. All right, I got, hey.
That's really
That
rude.
is not called for, thank you. All right, Rebecca Sinclair, followed by Stephanie McNamara.
Thank you. I have several letters here that were sent to the board. I just want to make sure they're here, they're on the record, from agencies that are already supporting folks in this community, whether it's a housing need or other sort of supportive housing needs. I just want to read an excerpt from one of these letters from the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans. According to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition's 2023 Out of Reach report, the average minimum wage earner in Suffolk County, New York, would have to work 104 hours per week to afford a one-bedroom apartment renting at fair market value, without being housing cost burdened. That compounds challenges cited by the May 2023 Pew Trust article, noting that a shortage of housing leads to rising housing costs, and that Suffolk County has permitted only 3 homes per 1,000 residents to be built since 2017. The reality here is that welcoming, not opposing affordable and supportive housing production is one of the most important things local governments can do to ensure that even the most vulnerable Southampton residents are able to thrive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I got Stephanie McNamara next, followed by Prudence Carabine.
Good afternoon. First of all, I just want to express my outrage over the timing of this meeting. Scheduled at the last minute, 2 days after Christmas, during vacation week for many people. It's extremely inconsiderate to try to cram this in before several of you leave office in 4 days. The community has clearly spoken in objection to this project as it does not serve our community's interest and need for affordable housing for local workers. There are dozens of other issues surrounding this project, not the least of which is the entrance from County Road 39. The community has a right to be heard and acknowledged, and you have an obligation to this community to act accordingly to serve the needs of the community. 60 units, or 50 if it's down to that now, on 5 acres is unacceptable, especially given the fact that our local residents are not the beneficiaries of this housing. The decisions forthcoming on this project should be the responsibility of the new incoming board, not that of those who are leaving. So please take the responsible and considerate action today by postponing this vote until the community has the opportunity, with proper notice, to weigh in on the discrepancies in the FEIS. I personally did not plan on spending my entire vacation reading a 600-page FEIS that I just found out 2 days before Christmas that was even available to read. So at the very least, I'm urging you to please vote no. For those of you leaving, this is not the legacy that you should be leaving, and one that will adversely affect future generations and our community. I think that what this board needs to address, we're all in favor of affordable housing for our families and our local kids who want to stay here. But the type of developments that you have been considering time after time, aside from Sandy Hollow, which turned out to be a great development, you need to be looking at the fact that if you have 5 acres or 13 acres or whatever the acreage is up there, we want affordable houses for the local people and for the people to be able to stay here, our kids who are joining the ambulance and the fire department and who want to be able to stay here and can't afford it because there's no houses. They don't want to move into, to my knowledge, to apartment buildings to raise families. So you're looking at this from the wrong point of view. If you want to change a zoning to make, it into R15 or R10, worse is a little bit much, but R15 or R20, so you have single-family houses, maybe with an affordable apartment upstairs or a garage apartment. You need to look at the type of housing that the community has been asking you for, and this has come up at the CAC a number of times too. We're looking for affordable houses, not apartment complexes that are going to urbanize the entire East End, because project after project that's coming before you,
30
that's what it's
seconds.
turning into. And you need to look at what is the right thing to do for the community. Certainly, everybody wants to support the local veterans that need to housing. There's no objection to that. Obviously, that goes without saying. But to bring in an out-of-town, first of all, the people who did the study are from out of town. They don't live on County Road 39. So you're hiring people who aren't even local to do these traffic studies. If you're going to put something in there, it's got to come out on North Sea Road. It cannot come out on County Road 39. That's just flat out irresponsible.
3 minutes.
So I'm urging you to please, reconsider this. If you're going to vote today, please vote no. But the better option is to please table this to the new incoming board, because it's going to be their responsibility and they're going to have to live with it along with us. Thank you.
Before you start, Prudence, I'm having trouble reading the next card. I want to say Lane. Is there somebody named Lane? Yes, okay.
No, Yimby. Yimby and Habitat for Humanity have begun.
No, the next speaker.
The next speaker, I just wanted to get the name straight for the
Oh, sorry.
one following you.
No
Go ahead.
All right, so
back up a little bit.
All right, so Prudence, just back off that mic a little bit.
Sorry.
No, don't leave.
No.
Don't leave,
It's okay.
just give you.
Not that far.
Come up, but
It's okay.
you don't have
That's
to
good.
speak directly into the mic. Right where you are is perfect.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I just want to begin by saying I'm Bonnicker, if any of you understand what that means,
Yes,
other than
yes.
Jay. 13th generation. And I have been working, as Jay knows, since the 80s on affordable housing in East Hampton as well as Southampton. I built 14 Habitat for Humanity houses between the Shinnecock Reservation and Amagansett in East Hampton. And so I have been on the side of this issue that says, we don't have a lot of opportunities here to build affordable housing anymore. We have to look at those that we have in our hands and those that we know could possibly work, because we don't have a house, property, lot for everybody who wants one in Southampton. We don't have a place for all of the fishermen in Springs who are retiring now or leaving mostly. And we don't have the optimum situation for affordable housing anywhere between the Shinnecock Canal and Montauk Point. What we have is a limited number of opportunities that we can look at and try our hardest to make work and convince the community. A community, usually when I'm speaking to an integrated crowd of people, of blacks and Hispanics and an integrated crowd. But we don't have a situation where we can pick the best jewel in the box, because there ain't no such thing anymore for affordable housing. However, the pressure on all of our local schools, businesses, landscapers, teachers, even doctors and lawyers and Indian chiefs, the pressure to remain here, if you've been here 8, 9, 10, 11 generations, as I have, is very, very hard to overlook, because this is God's country
30
here.
seconds.
I think you would all agree, this is God's country here. And we all want to try the best we can to stay here. But those of us who are not endowed with big pocketbooks have to work. And if you're working 18 hours a day, which some of my family did until they retired and left, 18 hours a day, you want to go home and sleep someplace that you're comfortable with. We all understand that. And if you're working more than that here in Southampton, more than 18 hours a day, which some people can do in the summer, I guess, you still want to go home and relax a little bit so you can get through September. So what we have is a tug of war, trying to keep the local economy going with the local workers, or the workers who come in from some other place to do all this work.
3 minutes.
Prudence, you
And-
have to wrap up here.
And the people who have decided that they really don't want those people here, or they really don't want them there, or they really don't want them anywhere. So, you know, we're in trouble with labor, we're in trouble with housing, and we've got to figure this out. So my attitude is, if you can make this work, make it work. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right, Elaine, is it?
Can I wait?
Sure, I'll just move you to the back. All right, I got Ziggy, Ziggy, what's your last name?
Gokia.
Gokia? Okay, Ziggy Gokia. Ziggy's followed by Varwara Gokia.
Good afternoon, Ziggy Gokia from Southampton. I'm just here to ask the board to defer the vote on the Liberty Gardens project until the road safety study can be fully conducted and completed. I'll keep this pretty brief because I think the ladies and gentlemen who spoke before me were quite direct and detailed. But just 2 days ago on Christmas, when I arrived from New York City, here where my mother lives, there was an accident, and that accident required a tow truck and a police car. The accident ended up being right on 39A, less than a quarter mile away from where the proposed build is. And it was just after midnight. It woke me up out of my bed. And it's, as someone who lives here, whose mother lives here as well, I'm extremely concerned with the road safety near 39A. The ensuing wreck ended up being less than 25 feet from our backyard. And so adding a proposed and trying to vote through a proposed project without completing this full survey, I think I'm gravely concerned with how it's going to end up, both increasing traffic and the ensuing accidents that will end up being increased from the Liberty Gardens project. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ziggy. All right.
Hello.
Hold on one second. You will be followed by Daniel Trunk. Go ahead.
I'm Barbara Gokia. I reside in Southampton, and I'm here to, of course, thank all of you for the service and to reiterate the fact that any project that serves the most vulnerable population, the mentally ill veterans, it's commendable. However, the positioning of this project is totally wrong, not only for the traffic, for the people who will reside at Liberty Corner, no matter how beautiful the residences would be, they cannot have access to the ambulances. It's on 39, and then it means that they might open on Hillside or Hillcrest, whatever the street is, or on Seasons Lane, which would be completely unfair to the residents of those developments. So I'm here to urge you actually to postpone the vote on this and think again about all the research that was done and the desire of the residents of Southampton who voted you in the position. Happy New Year. Thank you.
I got Daniel Trunk followed by Robert Holman.
Hello, I'm Daniel Trunk, resident of Southampton Village, Hillcrest neighborhood. It's not the first time I've spoke on this, and I'm going to tell you again that this is a bait and switch. These developers came in, said we're going to make so many affordable units for our residents, and there are no available units for our residents. This is a medical facility to serve a certain population that is not from here. No one in our community is clamoring for a veterans facility to be put in our town. The only people who benefit from this development are the developers and perhaps the lucky few veterans who may end up there. This is not the development that helps our town. It doesn't help people who need places to live. It doesn't help the residents. The only people that it's helping are the developers and perhaps the people who are selling the land and perhaps some other intermediaries who are working to facilitate this whole thing. I really think this is a huge decision for the town, and I don't think after the years of this going on, residents having to come and explain to other residents and to the politicians about the details of the proposal and how it's going to affect the neighborhoods and the traffic. I mean, it's really makes me wonder about the quality of our elected officials right now, which is, to me, says this needs to either stop now or, in the worst case scenario, be passed to the next board who perhaps will have a clearer picture and more time to work this out. I mean, this is not something you leave to the crew who's like going out the door and say, oh yeah, we're just gonna slam the door on this one, ha ha ha, we'll see who pats our backs on the way out. So I urge you, please, table this right now. The worst case, give the new board a chance to really look at the facts. I mean, come on. You've done some good work. Don't let this be your legacy. You're going to be down the road somewhere, some other political job, and we'll be forgotten about. Thank you.
All right, we got Robert Holman, followed by, once again, Lane.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Holmain. I'm from Southampton Village. I've written all of you recently about this project and my opposition, not necessarily to the project, but to the way we got here. And I'm here today not to detail everything I did in the letter or the email, but just to focus on one aspect of it, which I find extremely troubling, and that is the impact on both traffic and safety. I know from issues that have come up in the village how important this is, for the residents, as well as the people who have to go through our town and village to get further east or to get west after they've spent a day here working. But when 39 shuts down, things come to a standstill, especially in and around Southampton Village. When that happens, emergency services, including fire, in EMS and police, are extremely hampered, and that puts everybody in the village and in the town at danger. So based on just that one aspect of this project, I implore you to vote no, or at least, at the very least, allow the next board to take further consideration and reassess and see what we should do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Lane, I can't read your last name, so you can.
Lane Brett Schneider, and I live in the village of Southampton. I asked to speak last, I hope I'm near the end, because I'm really not familiar with the entire background of what's going on. I've only recently started reading about this. But what I can understand, I've been watching, I've been active in the village, not in the town. I live around the corner from this building. I've been watching the town meetings, and I've seen the back and forth between people speaking and then wanting an answer to questions. And I sit here wondering why I've just heard 30 or 40 people opposed to this project, but there's no back and forth because your answer is, oh, we'll discuss this later. Well, later, it's almost the first of the year, and your terms will be up. I don't know what to say except please table this and let the next board make this decision. You're making a major error. You've done all sorts of fantastic things during your term. I think you're the longest serving member on this board. Don't do this. and leave this as your legacy. It'll be a major mistake doing this, okay? The minimum you should do is table it and leave it for the next board. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. All right, those are all the cards I have. I'm going to go next to our online audience, and then we'll come back. So Charles, if you're watching this from home or office or other remote location and you wish to be heard in public portion, you do need to click the raise hand icon so we can bring you in. We started doing this during the pandemic, so allow people easier access, and we found that it's been helpful to the public, increasing participation. So we've kept it going, and we have our first speaker. So, ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we can hear you too. So if you could
Hi,
start
my name
out,
is Alyssa Kyle.
say your name again?
My name is Alyssa Kyle. I'm with Vision Long Island. And we want to speak in support of this project. When this project was first proposed, there was a housing crisis on Long Island, and it's only gotten worse since in the years that the project has been moving forward. We have previously supported this project as it brings much needed affordable housing to the East End in a location that's not only along the bus route, but also a moderate distance from the train station, a grocery store, and a downtown area. The project is well designed and will be an asset to the community with workforce and supportive veterans housing that is necessary to have a mix of housing for all communities. While no project is perfect, we feel that the benefits of this project far outweigh the downsides. It has been reduced in size from the original proposal, which does mitigate many of the concerns that have been expressed. So we strongly urge the town board to approve this FEIS and allow this project to move forward so that this housing can help to provide homes for people who are desperately in need. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello?
Everybody's talking.
Can you hear me? We see you. I don't have your name. You have a name?
Jen Hartnagel.
Oh, it's Jen Hartnagel, okay. So please then.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Supervisor and members of the town board. My name is Jen Hartnagel, and I'm speaking on behalf of the group for the East End. I would like to specifically address at least 3 outstanding issues which we believe the town board should address prior to deeming the FEIS complete. Each of these issues are planning and zoning related, and they were discussed during the December 14th work session and remain unresolved to our knowledge. We understand that the final decision on the zone change will rest with the incoming board, but the document that they review and have to base this decision on should be complete. The first issue we question is the unresolved issue of the westbound access and egress. There were comments from members of the board as well as staff during that work session making random suggestions about how this is going to work. U-turns at nearby gas stations, at the North Sea Road. It was a nonsensical discussion. These suggestions are completely unreasonable as a legitimate municipal planning strategy. Traffic is a substantial planning matter that needs to be fully assessed prior to rendering a determination of completeness. And this is not addressed in the FEIS. Second, we agreed with the supervisor's remarks at the work session that there's an absolute need for a signed letter of agreement demonstrating a formal decision by the applicant regarding the usage of the sewage treatment plant. Without demonstrable evidence of this agreement, any of the mitigation proposed by this wastewater treatment connection remains uncertain and inadequate for informed decision-making. Third, we have addressed this previously several times that there is zero analysis of the development potential on the front portion of that site. There is a clear requirement per secra to avoid sedimentation. The question, as responded to by the applicant at the work session, is not about whether the church plans to stay on the site. The planning issue is about the site's potential use under present zoning in the event that the church ceases operations. This is an easy planning assessment to undertake and provides decision makers with a rational basis for decision making. As with the issue of traffic and left-hand turns onto County Road 39, this issue has been left to random thoughts and speculation by members of the town board. That is simply an inadequate way to address the substantive issue. Lastly, I would be remiss if I did not mention the significant community concern that you've clearly witnessed today, that the decision about this FEIS or this controversial project found its way to a special meeting agenda 2 days after Christmas. The public has a right to be skeptical about the timing of this decision. If the applicant has already agreed to an extension of time as per the resolution that's in your packet, why not wait until you have all of the information and provide an adequate FEIS for the new town board to review? This is clearly being shuffled along, and the issues of public trust further complicates locating any new affordable housing projects in the future. In closing, we do not believe the FEIS is sufficient for the purpose of informing the project's finding statement and should not be deemed complete today. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. All right, thank you. All right, so we're gonna come back here then. Is anybody who did not speak who wished to be heard? Rachel?
Wasn't really planning on spending this week doing this, so I'm a little unprepared. Sorry about that.
Can't hear you.
Oops, sorry. My name's Rachel Verno. I'm speaking as an individual, not as the chair of the Watermill CAC, although I think it's probably safe to say that our members probably agree with the statement I'm going to make today. I'm actually following Jen's comments. This is a decision today, not whether you're in favor of this project or against. That's a different discussion. This is about whether or not the FEIS is complete. To be perfectly honest, I have not had an opportunity to read all 600 pages. I was particularly interested in the traffic analysis. I spent several years sitting on the County Road 39 corridor study project, along with a lot of residents, a lot of members from Jackie LaFaro, members from the county. We spent a lot of time and effort on that study. And so I picked out, just randomly, the traffic portion of the FEIS. And comment 2.1.14 says, the County Road 39 corridor study recommends that all new developments along County Road 39 must provide cross-access to adjacent lots and should not create new direct access, and this project does not meet the standard. The response in this document is, the County Road 39 corridor study is a general land use plan for the overall County Road 39 corridor. It is not possible for a general land use plan to consider each and every parcel and how recommendations would apply. Recommendations are provided to guide land use, but may not be applicable in all cases. There are practical aspects to these recommendations that must be considered in the context of the subject site. I don't think that's an answer to this question. I don't know if any of you on this board think that that's a significant or a satisfactory answer to that question. There are real concerns about the traffic analysis and how you get into and out of that project. When I sat on that committee, we talked about having every parcel on that corridor having cross-access, getting to a light so you could safely get into and out of those businesses. It's not a question of whether you think we need affordable housing. Of course we do. But just because every property opens up doesn't make it appropriate to have this much density, and you certainly have to answer the questions of your traffic flow. So this document, in my opinion, isn't complete until you have those answers. So regardless of your position on the plan, I think you really need to have specific answers. It's too big a project. I've sat on too many meetings with all of you about traffic studies, about the problems on County Road 39, and until you have real answers for how you're going to get into, and more importantly, how you get off of that, out of that property, and making left turns across all that traffic, I think this really is not complete. And so I hope you don't vote to say that and deem it incomplete today, because it's really important to have all these answers before you move on a really important project. Thanks. Thank you.
We'll come back to that. Well, you have one more online? That's it? Just one online?
Yes.
All right, we'll take the online comment.
Brioni.
Okay?
Hi, everyone. My name is Bryony Frage. I am zooming in from Maryland, but this is such an important issue and one that I feel deserves immense support. I am a resident of Sag Harbor. I am a member of East End DMV. And most of the problems and objectives that I've heard today from speakers would be the same in any area where an affordable housing development is proposed to be built. These are, you know, it's as if people have read the playbook on how to oppose affordable housing. Traffic, water quality, all of these issues are addressed in the DEIS. And, you know, several speakers have even argued that this doesn't help our local residents. If you've read, you know, the proposal, this will provide 25 workforce apartments and 25 supportive veteran apartments. You know, we started this meeting today with a moment of silence for our men and women serving in the armed forces. And those who are speaking in opposition to this plan really should be ashamed of themselves. Not to mention the fact that our local residents, I'm a social worker and psychotherapist that serves many of our local families, many of whom are workers in our community. They absolutely need affordable apartments. The person who is speaking, we'd love to have affordable houses as well, but we need everything that we can possibly get that is affordable to serve our community and our local residents. So I urge this board to please, we've been at this for this development for over 6 years. Nothing's being rushed here. I would argue we've kicked the can down the road so long, nobody else is ever going to propose affordable housing east of the canal, given how much money they've lost waiting for us to get our act together. So I urge the board, please pass this and let's get some housing for our local residents. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I have one more.
One more online?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi, this is Marcel Weiss. I'm the Director of Veteran Service here for Suffolk County. I'm here today not to discuss many of the points that I've run off today as far as the location, the transportation issues, the timing of this. I am here just to speak on behalf of the veterans that we serve here in Suffolk County. Suffolk County has the largest veteran population in the state of New York. We work with a lot of veterans that are either housing insecure or on a lower income. I want to point out to this group that we have many of the subpopulation, the largest subpopulation of veterans are senior veterans who are living on fixed incomes that are in our nearby communities that cannot afford to live in their single houses anymore. So an affordable housing program is very important to this community to keep them living independently and safely. And I just want to speak on behalf of Concern. We did put a letter of support in. We work with them in their other properties, Liberty properties, that house many, many veterans. They're thriving and they're surviving. They're doing so much better in that social environment because not only do they have each other, but they have the community of Concern. It is affordable but appropriate and supportive housing. And so if I can just ask you that all find a solution to address the deficit in the affordable housing, especially on the east end of Long Island. And as Suffolk County Veteran Services, we will continue to support our veterans in any way we can. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. All right, thank you. All right, so we're back on Mr. Daly. Only those who have not spoken.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Town Council members, thank you. My comments on this hearing were submitted to you last week, but there's a couple of other things. Amongst the reasons that I feel strongly about not only affordable housing, but about housing that serves veterans is I have two sons who are veterans. This young man was in Iraq and spent 8 months during Iraqi freedom and came home with PTSD. Thankfully, he has recovered. He's now married with 2 children, 2 beautiful grandchildren of mine. And this young man graduated from Mercy High School, was a Southampton town lifeguard, went to the Coast Guard, and did not come home with PTSD. However, he could certainly benefit from the workforce apartments that will be included in this development. Because he is in the, under 80% AMI, or $80,000 a year that people will be eligible for. Secondly, I was in Diana Weir's office when this first stack of papers was delivered over 6 years ago. We've watched this. I want to thank you for doing your job today, which is being the board that has the most experience with this application, who understands it, who's watched it, who voted for a full environmental impact statement to be done, positive deck, was here for the questions, picked the comments that needed to be responded to, which are in this. My biggest disappointment is that, as is noted, the last part of page 232 is there's over 130 general comments of support that were not included in this document. Okay, all that's included in this document is the comments of opposition and question, which are answered very well in this, and you know that. So thank you for doing your job. I wish you were here to actually be able to vote on the zoning change. But due to elections and term limits, you can't do that. So I'm inspired by Clement Clark Moore, who actually wrote this poem, not this poem, but a version of this poem,
30 seconds.
Right down the street from where I grew up in Elmhurst, New York. It's called A Visit from St. Nicholas. 'Twas 2 days after Christmas, and all through the room, many creatures were stirring, speaking their typical doom and gloom. The final environmental impact study was presented to the town board with care, knowing all the information is there. Local businesses and hospitals are dreaming of beds for staff to make sugar plums and nurses to dispense meds.
3 minutes.
There's one thing I know, without a doubt, Liberty Gardens will be something we are proud about. So now Cindy, now Rick, now Jay and John, on Tommy John, and there's no more reindeer. But we hope that you will vote yes on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else who has not spoken, who did not fill out a card? No one? Okay, I will make a motion to close public portion.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're gonna go to the agenda now. We only have one resolution. I'm gonna call upon Janice Shearer, our Town Planning and Development Administrator, to provide some background here as to where we are related to this resolution, maybe answer some of the questions that were brought up.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and members of the board. We'll miss you very much. And this is the secret process. The draft environmental impact statement is produced, and we have a hearing. So you had a zone change hearing, which everyone remembers, and all the comments and testimony from that hearing, which you see a transcript in this document, makes up a bulk of it. In what the final environmental impact statement is a response in writing to the comments that were raised at the hearing. So what you're doing now as lead agency is saying these comments are our answers to you. These comments answer the questions. They're your answers. They're the lead agency's responses. If you don't like the answers, you can change them. You can say, we want this to be different or that, or, we work with trying to get answers that are responsive to the comments. They're not necessarily perfect, but they respond to the comments. Enough so that later on, the next step in the process will be to make findings. And the findings of fact will be addressing one by one the various issues that were raised. And the findings will be in the affirmative, saying they've mitigated the impacts, we've, et cetera, whatever about the issue. It's a reasoned elaboration in the end. It doesn't mean that everything has to be responded to in a way that's perfect. It means that you took a hard look and you said, these are the social, environmental, and economic considerations, and all told, and it won't be you, it'll be next board, will say, all told, these considerations, and here's our decision. So this document will be...
Which can be affirmative or negative.
It can be either way. So this isn't the final decision. What this is saying, these comments, you're satisfied that these are the answers to the comments that came up in the hearing. That's what this is all about today. It's just that these answers, the responses back to someone, because otherwise, where do these comments go? They don't, there's a place that receives them, and there's responses that are generated to them, and SECRA makes you do this. So that is what this is.
Can you explain too that, SECRA is a state law, right? State Environmental Quality Review Act, that requires you to assess the environmental and sometimes economic impacts of projects. And they're classified in different ways. This was classified as a type 1. But a zoning decision isn't limited to SECRA considerations. A zoning decision can be, look at character of the community, it can look at other factors that may be outside the scope of SECRA. That is not the end-all and be-all. The new board will have to make a zoning decision to decide whether it's in the best interest of the community to rezone this property.
That's true, although the record of support or not is all contained here in this SECRA. So the record is there. It would be, important that you have the record shows. And so sometimes, the record may have conflicting information. Some people are saying that they haven't overcome the traffic issues when they're saying they have, or because they're not going to make a left turn, or whatever they're saying in there. It's not always like the perfect solution, but then you weigh out the facts and relevant conclusions and make a decision. So it's what we have to work with. SECRA, it's never perfect. People are always sort of saying, you're supposed to have all this perfect information and know all these things that are going to happen and the cumulative impacts of things that have yet to come. It's very difficult to know the future. So you take the best information you have, you take the projects that are on the books that are taking place, and you weigh all that out together. And in the end, the next board is going to have to say, we find that this does, yes, it's good, or no, it's bad. One way or the other, they have to vote. Right now, this record is demonstrating that they're showing that they can, have this development. They've reduced the yield from 60 to 50. They've reduced some, I jotted down some notes.
So what
here.
you're saying is the findings basically inform, the FEIS informs the findings. Your findings must be based on what you have deemed
In the
complete
record.
in your FEIS.
Well, in all
It's
the
part of
record,
the
not
record.
just the FEIS. The FEIS is everything. The DEIS, the testimony, the transcript from the hearing, and then what you're talking about today, which is the responses to the comments that you heard at the hearing. So someone makes a comment, and then there is a given response. And what you're saying today is that you're satisfied that that is an adequate reply. That's the only thing you're saying today, is that those responses where you see comment and then you see a bulk response, that you're satisfied that that response is adequate. Like that's all that this vote is saying these are the responses, it's complete. Everything has been responded to.
Janice, the decision in the springtime, the new board will be able to take other considerations, into their vote, into their decision-making process. It's not just one document. This isn't, like binding them to a preordained decision. right? They could take other social, whatever, you know, they
They're-
believe about
it's
this
the
when they
given the
take their
social,
vote on the
environmental,
zoning
and
change.
economic considerations. So looking at that, they would have to make findings to
Mhm.
say, well, the social considerations are that socially it's unacceptable for a variety of reasons. But, you know, on the other hand, there's other social considerations that say we have this vulnerable population that's in need. So those are also social considerations. Those are people that we're talking about.
And for this decision, a public hearing is required, right?
You are not,
not
under
in-
SECR required to have any further public hearings, but
Okay.
if the new board wants to have one,
We
it's
would,
at
yeah.
their discretion. They can.
They can have one.
They can.
They can
Of
have
course,
as many as
they
they
can
want.
have as many, but there's no
But not
requirement
required.
that says
Okay.
they have to. And I'm just telling you what the law says.
Right.
But again, I just want to make a distinction here. SECR is a state law. Ultimately, you know, and everything has to go through a SECR process, but a zoning decision can go well beyond SECR. It's a discretionary action up to a town board to rezone a property, and there'll, you know, be comments from Suffolk County Planning Commission that can affect, there'll be comments from Planning Board, that can affect that final decision. Jim, you want to correct me if I'm wrong?
That's correct, right. I mean, the board does have discretion when they're making a decision like this and it changes zone. So environmental concerns, and SECR is actually more than environmental, as you said, it's social, economic, all different issues, so. But yeah,
But
the
something
board
can
will ultimately
technically
have
meet
to.
SECR. You
Right.
can meet SECR and still not meet those
Well,
other
like
considerations.
Janice is saying, there's a certain amount of subjectivity to meeting the SECR. You know, nothing is perfect, nothing fits in a round peg in a round circle all the time. You know, there's going to be, people have different opinions and based on their own lifetime experience. And the board members that have been making this decision will consider all their experiences and apply that to this, and all the facts and what they feel like, and what they feel and their opinions to this, ultimately, the decision. And the findings will elaborate on that. They'll either have Janice mentioned, they'll either have a positive findings, saying that they agree, or they can be a negative finding.
And now
Yeah,
the
we don't do
That'll be
both.
entirely up to
Like,
the new
it's one
board.
it's one way or the
And the
other.
applicant has consented to a 90-day extension for
Yes.
the decision deadline.
We did receive a letter, because Councilwoman McNamara brought up in the work session that there was a 30-day deadline to act after you deem something a notice of completeness. So we took a look at that, and that is, they could always voluntarily extend that, and they did. So,
They did. And
so the
in
new
terms-
board will have extra time to review all the hearing. We have the digital links to all the hearings so they can watch them, including the work session and this meeting now. And they can read the FEIS as well, and the DEIS.
They also-
And secret time frames are not mandatory, they're guidelines.
But the applicant can hold you to that timeline.
Well,
They can, but they-
Well, no, they're not hard and fast, they're guidelines, not hard and fast
The
rules.
minimum time frames are generally more mandatory than the later time frames.
So the more important time frame is when you have an FEIS, they say you can't act within 10 days. If you were to act in like 8 days from now, which you're
Yeah.
not going to, or the new board is not going to, that would be a problem.
That's
More
correct.
so than the 30-day.
If you take more time,
If you
it's
take-
generally going to be okay.
Yeah,
If
if-
you take shorter time, then you could be subject to a change.
And we also
Right.
were provided a signed agreement with the rehab center for the use of the sewage treatment facility at the rehab center.
That's correct.
We haven't received that. The board has not received that.
Yes, you all
Yeah.
received an appendix
Yes,
that
we
goes
have
into
it.
your books.
Where?
When they came in last week, they
Yeah.
submitted them
That
out.
was,
Yeah,
that
I
was
saw it.
circulated last week.
We circulated that.
I don't get a lot of things.
Do you have any
Okay,
other
other
questions?
questions for Jen?
Well, this doesn't preclude us from having additional work sessions and public hearings on this issue.
No, it does not.
But it would
Right,
preclude you
that's a
from taking
decision
that
of the
into
board.
your.
Excuse me, Councilwoman. That's a decision of the board. I was still.
Sorry.
But that's a consideration of the board. In the springtime, this is a, contentious and serious and important issue for us to consider, right? We can do that.
You can, it's
Absolutely.
at
We
your
have three new
discretion.
members,
Of course you
so
can.
work sessions are entirely in order as well as public hearings.
However you
Generally-
want to handle it.
Right. Generally, if new facts came up, if you thought for some reason, I mean, the mayor brought up a supplemental, if you thought that was something that you should do, then you could have a hearings on that. Generally, additional hearings are at this point frowned upon, but if the board feels that way,
So if the new board felt like they didn't have all the answers that they needed to make a decision, they could ask for supplemental.
Sure, if there's some issue that came up that they felt that was, it should be considered, then sure.
It's usually predicated on new information. So, and that new information has to rise to a level of significance. In other words, something came up that no one considered before, and that very issue rose to a level of environmental significance where you would pause deck that issue and have a supplemental EIS on that issue. That's typically how it's done.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
You know, I also, just clarification, maybe Janice, you're very familiar with the project, but there was some numbers that were inaccurate presented today, so it is 50 units, 25 is supportive care, 25 is at 80% AMI. That is the project. There's sometimes people refer to 60 units, which was the original application, which was reduced. There is no access through either of the neighborhoods behind or to the west, only a right turn out. Okay. All right, anything else before we get to it? All right, so I will call the resolution 1545 of 2023, resolution to accept and file a notice of completion of final environmental impact statement, FEIS, in connection with the Concern for Independent Living Zone Change application entitled Liberty Gardens in the hamlet of Tuckahoe. Make a motion to approve?
Second.
I'm sorry, seconded by
Second.
Councilman Scavone. Okay. On the motion,
I have a statement.
okay, Councilwoman McNamara has a prepared statement. Okay, we'll go ahead and.
So not included in my statement is the fact that I am the liaison to veterans in the town. And so I do take that very seriously, and I do support housing for veterans. What is not mentioned in any of this documentation, unless you take the time to research where the funding for this project comes from, is that they must house veterans with a discharge that is other than honorable. So take that into consideration when we're deciding this, because I know the heartstrings have been pulled that this is for veterans. This has to be supported for veterans who are other than honorably discharged. So now my statement. The FEIS states several times that the town's decision to request a reduction from 60 to 50 units mitigates many of the issues that the town and the community had with this project. Let me start by saying that if it was in fact the town's decision, I was not party to it, nor do I believe it mitigates any of the issues. On traffic, the FEIS states that the proposed project combines access with the driveway for the existing church, such that no new curb cut is proposed, given the combined use of site access for the church and the proposed project. It is a new curb cut, as the existing curb cut on the northwest corner will be abandoned, and the project will create a new curb cut on the northeast corner, closer to the often gridlocked North Sea Road intersection, adjacent to the beverage distributor and liquor store, and nearly across the street from the proposed medical offices and Burger King. This new curb cut seems to be more problematic than the existing one. Having access solely to County Road 39 remains an issue, even though the FEIS states that it is not. Let me remind you all that the town is currently involved in a lengthy, complicated, expensive endeavor to provide a secondary access point to an existing neighborhood because their sole access to 39 has been extremely problematic. Why would you allow a new project to be built with the same issue that will no doubt need remediation at the town's expense in the future, especially since you requested a secondary access to North Sea Road exactly as the nursing home was required to do through the adjacent bank property? On segmentation, the DEIS in relation to the church property, Lot 1, states, the Southampton Full Gospel Church maintains that they intend to continue to use the property as a church with the opportunity to reopen the school that previously operated as part of the church. I pointed out as part of the hearing record that a school had not operated there in over 30 years, and such a use would have serious impacts, especially to traffic.
The FEIS states that the school has been operating since 1985 and will continue to operate in order to support any and all ministries of the church. This includes both formal and informal education classes for children and adults. The operation of a school will be no different than it has been in the past and will provide no further traffic impacts than have existed since the school was originally opened, zoned, and approved. I can tell you that this is completely untrue because the school ceased operation in 1987. I know because I attended school there. But I didn't even need to tell you that because the very next paragraph in the FEIS states, in the event that the church wishes to reestablish a school use, which operates Monday through Friday between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m., the church will seek all additional approvals, if deemed necessary, a supplemental DEIS and updated traffic study which addresses the increased traffic associated with educational staff members, inclusive of teachers, administrators, and others, as well as buses and/or parent drop-off and pickup shall be submitted. As the church clearly stated in the DEIS that they will retain the opportunity to reopen the school, this FEIS is not complete until that use on Lot 1 is fully explored from an environmental standpoint. On emergency services and community concerns, the applicant stated that the proposed project would not significantly burden our emergency service providers. The applicant indicates that existing communities built by concern are successful testimonies to providing needed housing in a compatible setting that do not create an attractive nuisance or have the potential to endanger the safety of local residents. Liberty Village and Liberty Landing are both cited as examples by the applicant. I pulled call data from Sandy Hollow, Spionk Commons, Liberty Village, and Liberty Landing to see how these communities compare. Two are cited as what will be similar to the proposed Liberty Gardens, and two are existing workforce housing units in the town of Southampton. The following data is from 2019. Sandy Hollow had 3 calls for service. They included 2 alarm calls and 1 call for litter. Spionk Commons had 15 calls for service. They included 4 code violations, 4 alarm calls, 2 domestics, and 2 ambulance calls. 5 ambulance calls, I'm sorry. Liberty Village had 58 calls for service, including psychiatric transport, harassment, criminal mischief, domestics, 15 ambulance calls, and 22 disturbance calls. Liberty Landing had 88 calls for service, including psychiatric transport, attempted suicide, domestics, criminal possession of a controlled substance, grand larceny, civil disputes, aggravated harassment, 4 overdoses, 15 ambulance calls, and 23 disturbance calls. When residents say we don't want this type of housing in our community, they aren't talking about affordable workforce housing. We just approved 78 units of affordable workforce housing in Quiog with very little opposition. The applicant didn't need to pack the room and no fights broke out at that hearing. The opposition that did occur was addressed in the FEIS, and there was no opposition at the meeting when we voted to approve the project. I just read you a list of the issues that will come with this housing development, and I ask you if it is fair to put these issues at the doorstep of those in the Hillcrest and Seasons Lane communities. As half of the units in this proposed development are only available to those who are unable to remain stably housed due to a mental health diagnosis, I pointed out that the nearest hospital with a comprehensive psychiatric emergency program is an hour away from the project. When a psychiatric transport is needed, 2 officers must transport the individual, resulting in 2 officers off of patrol for several hours. The applicant stated in the FEIS that in a January 6, 2022 letter, the Vice President of Community and Government Relations at the Southampton Hospital stated, "The hospital is confident that we can accommodate the medical needs of the potential residents of this new housing project." The problem is that the hospital was simply asked if they could accommodate veterans and those with disabilities. The key detail about their required mental health diagnosis was left out of the question. The FEIS then concurs that Stony Brook University Hospital has the only CPEP used by Suffolk County Emergency Services and law enforcement in emergency situations. It recommends using telehealth as an alternative. As per our police department, telehealth is not a viable alternative to CPAP. Since the special meeting notice was posted last week, I have received over 36 emails requesting that this meeting not be held, as many cannot attend to speak due to the timing. Why are we holding this vote now? To hold this vote now, with a majority of this board leaving office in 4 days, is unconscionable. I think back to when I joined this board 2 years ago. Trying to learn town procedures, meet staff, and get caught up on all the matters before the board was daunting enough. I couldn't imagine having to review all of the data and watch all of the meetings to make an informed decision on a project of this magnitude in a few weeks' time. While it was kind of the applicant to extend the 30-day deadline that no one would admit even existed 2 weeks ago, it's still not right to put the new board on a deadline. This FEIS is our document, our being the town board, regardless of who is sitting in these chairs. If you deem it complete today, you will commit and constrain the incoming board to a system of approvals that we will have a difficult time undoing should we so choose. Well, I guess I just answered my own question. I'm asking you to do the right thing and vote no today. This is our document, and it is not complete. Having just read the Hills decision, which we lost in part due to the fact that the FEIS prepared by the same environmental analysis and planning firm was adopted as complete, stating that all the issues raised had been addressed, and then the project was ultimately denied. The taxpayers, having already foot the bill to defend the town in that case, are now facing a potential judgment in the millions. Hold on. I'm sorry. Council members were personally sued in that case. Why would you put the incoming board in precisely the same position? Make your final act in office one of listening to your constituents and just say no. Walk away with your head held high, knowing that as this resolution states, you elected to consider 60 units of affordable workforce housing. Let the next board have as much time as they need to sort out the details and render a decision wholly their own. Thank you.
All right, who else? Councilman Scavone?
Sure. We elected to consider this, I don't have a prepared statement, but I want the public to at least know where we're going with this. We had a prepared, we elected to consider this initiative in 2019. We had our positive declaration in 2021. Now we are considering to accept the final environmental impact statement in 2023, and then the board is going to consider this in 2024. That's half a decade. We have been on this project. You can certainly disagree with me, but it is absolutely an extended process. I'm not going to go into my opinion on the merits of the progress because projects, because we are going to be voting on it in the spring. I will still be on this board in the springtime, and we will be discussing this further then. I advocate for public hearings. I advocate for work sessions for the new board, absolutely, and the new board will get up to speed on this. And I know that they are watching these meetings, and they've already been reading a lot of the materials, at least that's what they have told me. So we will get an up or down vote on this zone change in the coming year, and so with that, I do support this final environmental impact statement, and I will be voting yes.
All right, anyone else?
Well, what's in front of me, and it's the engineer in me, is a document, and I'm being asked, do I find it complete? And I do. It's a very technically narrow thing. You don't have specific answers to a lot of things because we're going to give this to the next board, and they can do with it what they want. I could spend an hour and a half debating you, Cindy, on this issue. You have a lot of factual error in what you just read, but I don't have to, it would spend too much time to do that. I'm one of the guys that's been here since the beginning, since the very beginning, with this project, and it's been a long haul. We did a lot of things. We reduced its size. We got the septic's changed over with an agreement with the nursing home. A lot of work goes into that. The same kind of work that went into NRP, which I was also very much involved in, and very proud that community is supporting it. What's in front of me is I'm being asked, do I deem this document complete? I have to. In good conscience, I cannot say it's not. The decision to do this rests with another board. And that's the way it is. So I support this, deeming this document complete.
So, I'll speak.
You want to go?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
So, I actually sit here and I'm a little sad, because one of the reasons that I initially ran was because my background in working with the youth of the community and the kids and watching them grow up was the fact that they did not have affordable housing. And we were losing so many of our kids that we sent off to college and they couldn't come home and so on and so forth. Or if if you wanted to do something that you weren't making $250,000, you still wanted to live here. And so when this first came over, it was exciting. It was 60 or plus units, and it was going to be workforce, affordable housing. We were going to take care of our nurses and our, police officers when they first started here. And then it changed. And then it kept changing. And as it changed, I kept asking, it kept losing interest. Like, I don't think I would have given it the same emphasis at the end that I did at the beginning, because it no longer is the plan that I originally had my heart set on. Some of the things, the cross-access issue, the fact that we do not want to go into the Hillcrest community is a great idea, but you needed to get cross-access, and there is some behind the nursing home, to get to North Sea Road. That should have been the first priority. Anytime we do anything, if you want to have a new business in Bridgehampton, you build a parking lot behind your store, you better have cross-access to next door, and then to next door, and come out on a traffic light. That's all part of the planning that they do. So unfortunately for me, with no cross-access, the plan that's in front of us, the traffic study, I think still needs to be looked at. I'm liaison to Flanders. I drive Route 24 on a continuous basis. You can put out 27 blinking lights, no left turn. Everybody's going to make the left turn. They use the turn lane as a third lane. The local civic association is documenting that there's close to one accident a day, if not more, on that road. And we know what happens when 39 shuts down. We can't afford an accident a day on 39. So for all those reasons, just to keep it simple, I'm deeming this incomplete.
Nothing I say is going to change any minds in this room. Everybody knows exactly how they feel about this. I happen to be a resident of Southampton Village. I don't live that far from this. We all know the need for affordable housing. And I'm also the son, excuse me, I listened to everybody's thing everybody had to say. I'm not going to speak very long. I just appreciate it. My father was a veteran. He served World War II. He served in the Korean conflict. Great guy, would do it all again if he had the opportunity. We're not just voting today on whether to approve Liberty Gardens. I wish we were. We're not. We're voting on whether a document is complete or not. The next board is going to have that difficult decision to make, and I'm sure they'll hold hearings and they'll hear all of you and more and make a final decision. There's no argument that we need affordable housing. Go try to find something and build a home or build an apartment, and you'll find very quickly that it's not possible. So, Mr. Fasano and Ralph, if I could bring you up here for 1 second here, because at the beginning of Councilwoman McNamara's remarks, she alluded to the veterans that you'd be housing as dishonorable. And I want you to comment on that, because I know that you're in the business of providing supportive care, and you have to meet certain criteria, but you don't have to be dishonorable.
Yeah, my father, too, was in World War II with 7 of his brothers, and he came back with a disability. We brought people out here who talked about their disabilities and how concern has helped them, and they pled with you to give somebody else a chance for the housing. And, everyone who spoke today who is opposed to this has refused the invitation to come visit us, come and talk to the veterans, come and talk to the people who are in the workforce housing. Jay, you did, Tommy John did, others did, the people, Myron referenced it. Everyone that did so was impressed. And it's just, I think to paint them as dishonorable is a dishonorable thing.
I did not paint
You
them as
used the
dishonorable.
word
I
dishonorable.
said that you have to house veterans that have a discharge other than honorable.
The implication was that it was dishonorable. So
I'm stating a
These are-
fact.
these are
Is it
people
not a
who
fact that you
served
have to
our
provide
country.
housing to veterans with a
I
discharge
mean,
other than
that's
honorable?
the first I've heard of that. I don't know where you got that from.
Empire State Housing?
I never
Okay.
heard of that.
these are people who are discharged with a disability? Yes.
Very different than a dishonorable discharge.
Yeah, I think the implication is very bad. But,
Whatever you have to say to make yourself feel better, go right ahead.
no, listen, look, there's 1,000 ways to kill a project, Cindy. It's very hard to get one across the finish line, and I'm sorry we can't get this across the finish line. All we can make a determination is whether the document that we requested is complete, that the questions that we decided needed to be answered were properly answered. I had the opportunity to review it. Some people say they didn't have the full opportunity to review it. Janice had the opportunity to review it. Our professional staff is saying that all the questions are properly answered. Ralph was initially, I think, invited into this community by Diana Weir, who was our housing director, to take a look because of the desperate need for housing here. Went, identified a piece of property on a main road, roughly 5 acres. Spent, I don't know how much in terms of purchasing options and preparing answers to these questions. I imagine well over $1 million, probably closer
It's
to
$2 million.
probably $2 million.
at this point.
And, Ralph, you are not a for-profit developer.
We are a not-for-profit, and that $2 million hurts. It really does.
You are a not-for-profit.
We are into a line of credit for that amount.
Yeah, and somebody
for
in an
this
email
project.
said, you are a benefactor of mine. You've never given me a penny.
I've never given you any money.
And I live in this community too, and, I honestly wish I were here to approve the project, but it's not gonna happen. The next board's gonna wrestle with this, and I can't tell you the outcome. I have no crystal ball. You have new people here. There'll be plenty of opportunity for more public comment. I thank you for trying to do something here.
Thank you. Can I
Because
just
it is
address
needed.
one thing that
Yeah.
Councilman Martell said? This was no bait and switch. In 2018.
Did not call it bait and switch. It
Okay,
said
but
plans
the
changed.
paper did, and that got out there. The application we submitted in 2018 had 60 units, 30 of them supportive, 30 of them affordable housing. The project's been the same ever since that 2018, until we decreased it to 50 units. Once again, with an equal amount of veterans and affordable units. Last time I was here, it was about 8 months ago, and I read a whole statement, and it countered everything that everyone said today. And I was tempted to read it again, but then I don't know why I would do that, because it's been repeated over and over again. There's just a lot of misconceptions and outright lies about this. And believe me, I have not benefited from this project at all. It's been a real drain. It has taken more of my time. It's diverted from other good things that we do as an organization. And the Pat replies that, oh, this is the developer who's benefiting from this. That's nonsense. We do this because it's the right thing to do. We help a lot of people. Those of you who have come out and seen our places saw that, and we encourage anyone else who doubts what we do to come out and see us.
And, 25 units of workforce housing is roughly the size of Sandy Hollow in terms of housing. And the 25 units of supported care are for veterans.
It's not supportive care, it's supportive housing. And some of them are elderly. Some of them are the Vietnam generation that really need care. Many of them are younger. Mike talked about his relatives with PTSD. We work with some young people who come, and we work with the VA, and we work with their treatment providers, and the goal is to get them to work in the community so that veteran housing ultimately can become workforce housing.
Well, I don't, again, I don't know what the next board will do. I hope they do not turn their backs on the veterans, and I hope they recognize the need for affordable housing during a serious crisis. So I've seen certainly too many of the people I know have to leave this community, and unfortunately, some who end up living in cars. So
Yeah.
it's
We got a letter 2 days
Not a
ago
good
of somebody who is living in Riverhead now in the affordable housing that's there. She had been a lifetime Southampton resident, couldn't afford to live here anymore. She really wants to live here and work here. She can't afford it. She sent a letter of support, which we forwarded to your office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Two in opposition, Councilwoman McNamara, Councilman Martell, and the resolution passes 3-2. I don't have any other resolutions. I don't see anything else on the agenda. Is there any other business? I'd like to take this opportunity to wish everybody a happy new year and to say goodbye. It's been an honor serving the community of Southampton. All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.